Think about this for a moment. The world's most powerful military, backed by an almost unlimited budget, cutting-edge satellites, stealth bombers, and the most expensive fighter jets ever built. Normally, nothing should worry such a system. And yet there is one fighter jet that has quietly forced serious planners inside the Zero to rethink uncomfortable assumptions. What really scares them is not raw firepower, it's an idea. The Gripen represents a philosophy that directly challenges how modern air wars are supposed to be fought. While most Western air forces depend on massive, highly visible air bases packed with infrastructure, long runways, and thousands of personnel, this jet was designed to survive when all of that is destroyed. It does not need perfect bases. It can operate from highways, short roads, and improvised strips. In a real war, that changes everything. From a Pentagon perspective, this creates a nightmare scenario. Traditional air dominance strategies rely heavily on knocking out enemy airfields early. Destroy the runways, destroy the hangars, and you cripple the Air Force. But what happens when the aircraft simply moves to a road, refuels in minutes, and takes off again before satellites even notice? Another uncomfortable truth is cost. The Gripen is dramatically cheaper to buy, cheaper to fly, and cheaper to maintain than most modern Western fighters. This is dangerous not because it outperforms everything, but because it lowers the barrier to entry. Smaller nations can afford it. More aircraft can be deployed. Losses become acceptable in a way that billion-dollar jets are not. For Pentagon strategists, this raises a disturbing question. What if future wars are not won by the most expensive platforms, but by the most resilient and adaptable ones? The jet was built around the idea of fighting under constant pressure. Quick turnaround times allow it to land, refuel, rearm, and take off again in roughly 10 minutes. Often with a ground crew small enough to fit in a van. This means it can generate more sorties in less time, even under attack. In modern air warfare, sortie rate often matters more than individual aircraft performance. There is also the issue of electronic warfare. The Gripen was designed with strong electronic attack and self-protection systems from the very beginning. Instead of relying only on stealth, it focuses on confusing, jamming, and disrupting enemy sensors. Against a force that depends heavily on networks, data links, and sensors, this approach is deeply unsettling. What truly worries planners is how this concept scales. If multiple nations adopt similar doctrines, dispersed operations, low operating costs, rapid repair, and heavy electronic warfare, then traditional assumptions about air superiority collapse. Suddenly, destroying a few bases or shooting down a few jets no longer guarantees control of the skies. The jet also represents strategic independence. Countries operating it are less dependent on foreign contractors, massive logistics chains, and long repair cycles. In a prolonged conflict, that independence becomes a force multiplier. From the Pentagon's point of view, this means allies and adversaries alike may one day operate effectively without relying on American infrastructure or support. In the end, the fear is not that this jet is unbeatable. It's that it proves something uncomfortable. Air power does not have to be impossibly expensive, fragile, or centralized to be effective. It can be flexible, it can be survivable, and it can keep fighting even when the battlefield looks completely broken. That idea, more than any missile, radar, or engine, is what really keeps planners awake at night. What truly amplifies concern inside the Zero is not a single weapon, radar, or missile system, but a mindset that directly threatens how modern air power is planned and controlled. This aircraft was never designed to win headlines. It was designed to survive when everything else fails. And that makes it far more dangerous than it appears on paper. Modern Western air doctrine is built on predictability. Big air bases, fixed logistics hubs, long runways, massive fuel depots, and highly visible infrastructure. These are powerful, efficient, and deadly, but they are also fragile. Once detected, they become targets. The assumption has always been that if you can destroy or disable these nodes early, you can dominate the air war. This jet was created to function in a world where those nodes no longer exist. Instead of concentrating power, it disperses it. Instead of protecting massive bases, it removes the need for them entirely. Roads, highways, small strips, hidden locations near forests or mountains, these are not emergency options. They are core features of its operational doctrine. That forces any opponent to hunt everywhere all the time, with no guarantee of success. Surveillance dominance is another uncomfortable problem. The modern battlefield is saturated with sensors, satellites, drones, radar networks, electronic intelligence platforms. The belief is that constant observation equals control. But this aircraft challenges that belief by minimizing the value of static intelligence. It moves frequently, operates briefly, and disappears before patterns can be established. Intelligence becomes outdated almost as soon as it is collected. This creates decision paralysis. When planners cannot be certain where aircraft are operating from, targeting becomes slower and riskier. Missiles get wasted on empty runways. Strikes hit facilities that were abandoned hours earlier. Resources are drained chasing shadows. Over time, this erodes confidence in the entire surveillance-driven model of warfare. Cost is another silent threat. This jet is not cheap in absolute terms, but it is dramatically cheaper than many modern fighters. That changes strategic math. Losing an aircraft is tragic, but it is not catastrophic. Fleets can be larger. Replacement is possible. Risk tolerance increases. For forces flying extremely expensive platforms, every loss becomes a strategic event. That imbalance quietly shifts initiative to the side that can afford to keep fighting. Sortie generation is where this philosophy becomes truly dangerous. Quick turnaround times allow aircraft to land, refuel, rearm, and take off again in minutes, not hours. Small ground crews can perform tasks that usually require dozens of specialists. In sustained conflict, this means more missions, more pressure, and less downtime. Air wars are not always won by superior technology, but by who can stay in the fight longer. Electronic warfare deepens the anxiety. Rather than relying solely on stealth to avoid detection, this aircraft actively disrupts enemy systems. Jamming, deception, and sensor confusion are baked into its design philosophy. Against forces that rely heavily on data links, sensor fusion, and real-time battlefield awareness, this creates chaos. When screens lie and signals disappear, command structures hesitate, and hesitation costs lives. Logistics may be the most underappreciated fear. High-end fighters depend on complex global supply chains, specialized components, and constant software updates. Those chains are vulnerable. Cyber attacks, blockades, or industrial disruptions can ground fleets without firing a single shot. This jet was designed to operate with minimal dependence on external support. Local maintenance, simpler systems, and rapid repair keep it flying even under sustained pressure. Pilot survivability also matters. Instead of pushing extreme performance at the cost of reliability, the design prioritizes systems that keep working when damaged. Redundancy, ease of repair, and pilot-friendly interfaces reduce fatigue and errors. In a long war, pilots are as valuable as aircraft. Preserving them preserves combat power. The most unsettling implication is what happens if this model spreads. If multiple nations adopt similar concepts, dispersed operations, affordable fleets, electronic disruption, and resilient logistics, then traditional air dominance becomes almost impossible to guarantee. Control of the skies turns into a constant struggle rather than a decisive achievement. In the end, the fear is not about losing technological superiority overnight. It is about losing certainty. This aircraft proves that air power can be effective without being centralized, fragile, or unimaginably expensive. It introduces doubt into strategies that rely on perfect information and total control. And in military planning, doubt is dangerous. There is another layer of concern that rarely gets discussed openly, but it weighs heavily on long-term strategic planning inside the Zero. It is not about today's wars, or even the next conflict. It is about what future wars might look like if current assumptions completely collapse. For decades, air superiority has been treated as something that can be achieved quickly and then maintained almost automatically. Win the opening phase, destroy enemy air defenses, dominate the skies, and everything else becomes easier. This aircraft challenges that sequence. It suggests a future where air superiority is never fully secured, only constantly contested. One of the most unsettling aspects is how it blurs the line between peace and war. Because it can operate from civilian-style infrastructure like roads and dispersed locations, it becomes harder to distinguish military targets from normal terrain. This complicates rules of engagement, increases political risk, and slows decision-making. Every strike carries a higher chance of escalation or unintended consequences. From a strategic perspective, that friction limits freedom of action. There is also a psychological dimension. Modern high-end air forces are trained to protect rare, extremely valuable assets. Pilots know they are flying machines worth hundreds of millions of dollars. That reality affects behavior, risk tolerance, and mission planning. This aircraft shifts that psychology. When platforms are more affordable and easier to replace, commanders can afford to take calculated risks. Pressure increases, the tempo rises. The opponent is forced into a reactive posture. Training philosophy adds another uncomfortable contrast. Many advanced fighter programs require long, expensive training pipelines and constant simulator time to maintain proficiency. This jet was designed to reduce that burden through intuitive systems and streamlined procedures. Pilots transition faster. Readiness levels remain high even with limited resources. In a prolonged conflict, that translates into sustained combat power rather than early burnout. Then there is adaptability. Modern warfare evolves rapidly. New threats emerge. New sensors appear. New countermeasures are developed. Systems that are too complex or too rigid struggle to adapt quickly. This aircraft was built with modularity in mind. Upgrades can be integrated without grounding fleets for years. Software, sensors, and weapons can evolve at the pace of the threat. That flexibility is strategically dangerous because it denies opponents a stable target to plan against. Another concern is coalition warfare. The traditional model places a few dominant air forces at the center, with allies operating in supporting roles. A more affordable independent fighter disrupts that hierarchy. Smaller nations gain credible air power without total dependence on external support. Coalitions become less centralized and harder to control. From a command and control standpoint, that complexity increases uncertainty. The economic angle cannot be ignored either. Sustaining ultra-expensive platforms requires strong industrial bases, political consensus, and uninterrupted funding. Any economic shock, political shift, or public backlash can reduce readiness overnight. A more cost-efficient Air Force model is inherently more resilient to those pressures. It can survive budget cuts, political transitions, and industrial disruptions with less impact on operational capability. Cyber and electronic resilience further deepen concern. Highly networked systems offer incredible capability, but they also present large attack surfaces. If data links are disrupted or corrupted, effectiveness drops sharply. This aircraft was designed to function even with degraded connectivity. It can fight with partial information, operate independently, and rely less on perfect data. That ability undermines strategies built on information dominance. Perhaps the most profound fear is cultural rather than technical. This aircraft represents a rejection of the idea that progress must always mean bigger, more complex, and more expensive systems. It suggests that smart design, resilience, and adaptability can rival brute technological superiority. If that mindset spreads, it forces a complete rethink of procurement, doctrine, and long-term force structure. In the end, what makes this so unsettling is not the aircraft itself, but what it proves. It proves that dominance can be challenged without matching scale, that resilience can compete with raw power, and that the future of air warfare may favor those who prepare for chaos rather than perfection. That realization lingers far longer than any single threat scenario.